Evening guys, how you all doing? It's Dan here from the tool room. I hope you've all had a good day and are having a good evening. Tonight we are going to be looking at the more in-depth review of the Klein Tools bearing assisted electrician's knife. That is really hard to say. I've had about 3 takes just to get that right. So we've had the unboxing, haven't we? And we've had the first impressions of it and what we thought of it. And I think we decided that it was a very good looking knife on first impressions. And tonight we're going to have a little bit more of an in-depth review because I've had a chance to actually use it now. So we're going to see what it can do and how it performs. So here it is then. This is the first impression of it then. This is the overview of it to start off with. So let's have a little look at it, shall we? So we can see that it's made all in this matte black finish, which I said before looks really cool. It looks really stealth, so I like that about it. It looks, like I said before, it looks like something the SAS would use or something like that. So it looks really cool. Even the blade here is matte black, and if you look along here you can see that the actual cutting edge of the blade is actually silver. Now that looks good, but that's actually for the reason of that if you put a bit of matte black on it, it would actually blunt the blade. So the edge here where you actually cut is kept plain here, so it's nice and sharp and easy to use. So it's a lot sharper on the blade there, but it actually looks really nice, doesn't it? It looks like that silver accent on the black. It complements it really well. I like the embossed Klein logo there. So it says Klein Tools established 1857, and it's a nice embossed logo there. So it looks really smart and it feels really nice. And if you look at the general construction of the knife, it's sort of it's held together by these rivets here, and it's nice and strong. It's made of aluminium, and it's sort of got this sort of burnished effect on it, which is really nice. And the clip on the back is a very strong clip. So you've got quite a bit of force to do that. So that means that when you put it on your trousers or in your belt or wherever you want to put it in your tool bag, it holds on nice and tight and it's not going to fall off for you. So that's really good. Now, the other thing which is worth noting as well is that the clip is situated at the top of the knife. So if you put it in your pocket, it's going to sit nice and low. So if you imagine the knife is actually folded up, most of the knife, when you put it in your pocket, is going to be sitting actually in your pocket. So, it's not like, there where your pocket, so it's easy to fall out or anything like that. So there's been a good design there. So bearing assisted, what does that mean? Well, it's got some bearings that help you do this. So it flicks out nice and quick, faster than the eye can see. Now, the only problem with this is when you do this, it's almost impossible when you flick it out not to go whoosh. You just got to make that noise, haven't you? When you do it, you've got to go whoosh. Or similar noise. You can choose your noise. It's down to you what noise you make. But you've got to make some kind of noise because it's just not as fun if you don't make a cool noise, is it? Now, the way this works is you've got a little bit of metal there. Okay, so you basically push that back. I don't know if you can get this in focus here. You basically push that across there, and then that loosens the knife, and the knife folds in nicely. Okay, now that's pretty easy to use. It's sort of one-fingered operation, should I say? So you can flick it out with that finger, and then you just push it back with that finger. You just got to be a bit careful that you make sure you move your finger out of the way because you don't want to go pushing it in. Right, so that's the general design of it then. You can see that it's held together with some sort of screws there, so you can unassemble it if you need to. The reason you might need to do that is if you get like a load of dirt inside it or something, or if you drop it in the mud, you can take it apart and you can give it a good clean as well. On the end there, you've got a tethering hook, so if you work in a height, you can put a lanyard on the end of it because obviously it is made of aluminium, so if you drop it from a height and hit someone on the head, it's not going to be very good for them, is it? And you're going to end up getting yourself into a fair bit of trouble. You've got these sort of indented designs here as well, so it sort of makes it look nice and symmetrical. And I don't know, for me, it's almost got a sort of, I don't know, it kind of looks sort of modern, yet it's sort of got like an antique feel about it in some ways, sort of like a retro feel about it. So that's pretty cool. I quite like that. So what about functionality then? So we've had a look at some of the features of it. Now you can see on it that it is called an electrician's knife. Okay. Now what I'm going to suggest to you here is that you can use it for some electrician functions, but I think what it's more for like it's sort of like a little sidekick for an electrician. It's sort of there to do everything an electrician would want it to do. So the first thing I'm going to test it with, I mean, the first thing an electrician's going to have is he's going to have like lots of deliveries and everything like that of different parts. And in the fire and security trade, I'm the same. I'm always having deliveries of parts and stuff. So it's good to have a good knife for that. And I'm just going to give a little example of that. So here you go. Here's a cardboard box, typical cardboard box. Now, this one was already opened earlier, so I haven't got any new deliveries, unfortunately. But you can see that if you use the knife on this, you can see that it quite easily cuts through that. So you get a nice clean cut. So, I wasn't expecting this not to be able to cut through a cardboard box, to be honest. I'm sure none of you were. But as you can see, this is the thing you're going to use it for all the time. You're going to keep this, on you, about your person. And it's just a handy thing to have, isn't it? Because you're just going to be using it to open your boxes, to open your deliveries. And that's the main thing you're going to use it for. However, it does have some extra little features on it. So you can actually strip wires with this knife. Now, you're not usually going to be stripping wires with it, I shouldn't imagine. You'd tend to use a wire stripper or something like that. You're not going to be using this. If you've got a wire stripper in your pocket, you're not going to use this instead. But if you're at a pinch, say you're at a job and, you're looking at something and you weren't actually intending to do it, but, you want to do a bit of investigation or the customer asks you a question and stuff, and all you've got on you is your knife and your van's parked about 20 miles away down the road, you can use this to get you out of a little pinch, and I'll show you how that works. Now, I always keep any scrap cable, I guess. So there we go. There's if it'll focus, there you are. There you go. There's a manky bit of fire cable there. Okay, that it's kind of got all scratched up, so I couldn't really use that. So I've kept hold of it. Now, what you can do with this is you can actually strip this cable quite nicely, actually. So if you just run this round the edge of it there, being very careful not to cut your hands, you can just run the blade round the edge of it, and then quite easily you can snap where you scored it, the cable, and you can strip off that. So that's pretty cool. That did that quite well. I mean, fire cable's got reasonably tough sheathing around it, and that did that quite well. So you can strip that off quite easily. Obviously, always turn the power off before you do it, even if it is only 24 volts like fire cable, because you can short circuit it. Okay, so always do it safely. Now on the top here, you've got these notches. Now these are for stripping cables. I think they're in AWG gauge, American gauge, but I think they're possibly 0.75, 1.5 and 2.5 cables these are for. So let's have a little go with that then. Now what you want to do is you want to move that in and you want to shut the knife, okay? Because what you don't want to be doing is trying to strip it while you're holding the blade there, because you're going to cut yourself, okay? So shut the knife, and then what you can do is you can take these cables, okay? And you can put it in that notch, and you can sort of, with the knife, you can sort of score around the cable like that, and then you can pull it off and you can strip it. So, it works quite well, really. I was quite impressed when I used this knife, how easily it actually took off the sleeving on the fire cable. I was quite impressed by that. So, you can do that, can't you? I'll just show you that again. So you can just pick a notch that works for you. I mean, any of the notches will work quite well, to be honest, but this one works quite well in this case. And you just run the knife round and you can just pull the cable off, the sheathing off, and you can see it hasn't, I don't know if you can see that, if I can get it to focus, if I move the knife out of the way a sec. There you go, you can see that quite nicely. It hasn't cut into the sheathing, into the actual cable itself, into the copper at all. So it's done quite a nice job of that, really. So at a pinch, you can use this wire knife to be stripping off cables. But really, I think the intention of this knife is that it is an electrician's little pal that sits in his pocket, really. It's very high quality. It's really made well. It's very, very solid. Now, one thing you can see is when you flick the blade out, now, and this is a mark of a good knife, the blade doesn't wobble around, it doesn't rattle or anything, it's in there solid, which is really good for safety as well, because if you're cutting into something, even if it's a box or something, what you don't want is that blade moving or collapsing and slipping and ending up cutting you. So it's really useful for that. So it is a useful little thing to have in your pocket, really. And you are mostly going to be using it for opening boxes and things like that, and cutting into things. But you know, that is something we need to have, you know, as electricians, as fire and security engineers, whatever we are. You know, it's always good to have a good knife on us. And for cutting boxes and stuff, I think these actually work a bit better than your standard Stanley blade, don't they? You know, a lot of people do seem to be going for this type of knife instead as well. Now, it has another function on it as well. Now, we'll just go and get my little bit of cable back there, which I've thrown on the floor. Right, so what we'll do, we'll just, for example, we'll just get this bit of cable here. And we'll just chop that off there, just to show you. Okay, and we will safely put our knife in again. Okay, and we'll just run this round here again. In fact, let's do it a bit longer than that. We'll just run this round here again. Pull it off. Now, what this also has here is this little hole here. Now, that's not just for design. What you can actually do with this is you can just use it to loop your cables around as well. So if you're now, I'm not an electrician, as you can see. An electrician, I'm sure, would have done that better. But, you know, you can see what I mean, can't you? No, let's do it properly. Let's do it properly. Okay. Well, let's chop him off there. So again, let's use our knife again. And do it a bit longer this time, perhaps, so we can do it properly there. Strip it off. Pull it off. Right. And what you can do, you can just loop your cable into that hole there. And it makes a nice little loop for you if you're putting this into your sockets. I've done it again. I'm just not very good at looping cable, am I? Thankfully, I don't really have to do this very often in my job. But as you can see, it's really good for looping your cable around. So, you know, if you want to put this into, you know, a plug socket or something like that, or into a fuse spur or anything, you know, you've got your loops, so you've got a better connection in it. So the knife does that very well as well. Unfortunately, my skills don't match, but there we go. So we can see that this knife has a range of different functions, so it is a useful thing to have. It's especially useful having the lanyard here. And another thing that they've done on here is the lanyard is actually the same part of metal as the body. Okay, now that's a good thing, because if you attach another piece of metal to this metal, then you've inherently got a weak point on it. A lot of them sort of add the lanyard after and sort of weld it onto the end, or attach it to the end somehow. And essentially you're going to get a weak point on it then. So this is all part of the main construction of it. So once you got your lanyard on, it's nice and strong and it's not going to fall off. And it's got quite a decent size hole as well to keep that lanyard in, if you are the type of person that works at height. As I say, I'm not an electrician. But I am a fire engineer and security engineer, and this would be really useful for me, and I have been using it, I have kept it on me, and I have found it a very useful little companion actually. So if you are interested in this knife, it is going to cost you about £36. Okay, I will put a link in for the Klein Tools website where you can get this. It will be available as CEF at some point. And you can actually get this on loadout.shop as well. Check out his channel. He does a review on this as well, and he reviews a lot of different Klein tools if you're interested in looking at that. So you can get that on his shop as well. So check out his website. And that's from the Residual Current channel. So check that out. There's some good reviews on there. So here it is then. This is the Klein Tools Electricians knife. I would recommend this. I've been using this and I do like the knife. You know, there's there's not too much, I suppose you can say, about a knife, but this one does have a lot of extra features on it. So if you're interested in this, like I say, I will drop a link in the description below for this. Tell me what you think of this knife. Do you like the design? What do you think of it? Have you used this knife? Do you have this knife? And you know, again, we'd love to see your comments on this and what you think of it and what you think of the initial impressions. Please like and subscribe, hit that bell icon to receive notifications when I bring out new videos so you're not going to miss anything. And thank you to everyone who subscribed so far. And again, thank you to Super Rod UK who have sent me this knife. Shout out to Vanessa of Super Rod. I appreciate this, and I'll be using this on a daily basis, and it's been a really useful tool for me. So thank you very much for that. And guys, have a great night, and I will catch you on the next video. Night, night.